In this brief talk, we are going to look at how do you develop your packages in R. So, package development and unit testing. So, the package development procedure has been a bit cumbersome in the past. So it was a kind of a niche for software developers. So it was a bit complex to statisticians and other scientists to develop packages because there were no helper or utility functions, utility packages that you can be able to use to rapidly develop your package. But in the recent past, a lot of research has been done to aid this process. So a number of utility packages have been created by scientists at posit.com to be able to help each and every researcher, each and every scientist to develop their own packages and also to do some proper unit testing in R. So some of these utility packages include usethis. We have another package called devtools, another package called testhut, which is used for testing purposes. We are going to look at this in this brief talk. So assuming that you want to create a package, the simplest way to start is by creating a new project in RStudio, which is very easy. You simply come to File, and then create a new project. And then you're going to start with a new directory, R package. Then I can call this test03 and use this default directory. And then you create your R project. So when you do that, it automatically creates for you a folder for test3. So the folder contains these two folders, and these are the files that we're going to look at briefly in a moment. So we have the man directory, which contains the documentation for your functions, and we have the R folder, which will contain the scripts that are basically the functions that you are going to define within your package. So let's do away with this, the hello.r, because we're going to create our own functions. So let me just delete this. So we'll be using these packages a lot. Use these devtools. And for testing, you're going to use called testhut. You're going to use version 3 or the edition 3. The current edition. So assuming that I want to create a function within my package, maybe a function that computes summation, or it gives me the average of two numbers. Let's start with just a simple case of getting the average of two numbers. So the easiest way to create the script is to use the helper or the utility package called usethis. Then I'm going to use a function use underscore r. Let's call this one average one dot r. So when I run this command or this line of code, it's going to create for me a script called average avg1 dot r within my R folder. It's going to open for me the script in this pan so that I can add an actual code for doing the average. So let's run this. So when you do that, it creates for you the script called average1.r. Then it opens for you the script so that you can now write the actual code. So let's write the actual code for doing the average. So given two numbers x1 and x2, this code is going to give you the average of those two numbers. Now, once you've written functions for your package, it's good to test these functions to verify if they're doing exactly what you want them to do. So in the past, we've been doing this manually or doing this interactively. So you can use your script and let me first of all run this so that I have the definition. So in the past, we've been doing such things. So once you define your function, you call your function with some specific arguments just to verify that it's giving the average. You can also give it different numbers, verify that it's giving the average. Then maybe at the end of the day, you'll end up deleting these two lines of code because they're not part of the function, and then you submit this maybe to another R user or another developer, or maybe the future you. So the challenge with this approach of testing is that after some time, you end up forgetting to replicate the exact test that you did to verify the functionality of your code, or someone else picking up your code, they may not be able to replicate or to know the exact test that you carried out to verify that your code is working. So that's why uh, recently there's been a introduction of a consistent framework of testing in R, where now you develop tests, and these tests can be able to be rerun automatically. These tests can be able to be shared alongside your package or alongside your functions, and it becomes easier. So for us to be able to develop a test for this particular function, I'm going to use a utility package, use this, then I'm going to use a function use test. So when I run this, it's going to create for me a corresponding test file for my function. So when you run this just without the arguments, so it's going to add the test hat package to your description file, and it's going to do some configuration to specify that you're using version 3 or edition 3, and then it's going to create the test hat folder, which will contain your tests for various functions that you're going to have within your package. Then it's going to create the specific test function for my average function called test dash avg1.r. Let's just verify this. So when you come to the main directory, you can now notice that I now have a folder for tests, which will which is going to contain my specific test functions for the various functions that I'm going to develop within the package. And then for the description file, if you open it, now test hat version 3 has been added to my suggest field. Apart from this other field, the specific fields that you need to modify manually. So for example, the title. So in this case, the title is my local average function. And the author is ABC RY, page maintenance APX gmail.com. Then description, so you can say that this package contains helper functions in the mean or the average. Then for the license, there are so many options, MIT, GPL, so let's just use GPL, General Public License 02. And the rest of the fields, they can be left as they are. So let's create a test. So because I'm getting the average, so I can call this one average works. I expect that if I call my function avg1 on 3 and 4, this should be equal to the definition of the mean from first principle. So for average, you know that you're taking the sum of these numbers and then you divide them by total number of items. So in this total number of items are 2. So expect that if I sum these, then you divide by 2, I should get what this function is returning as the average. So let's save this and run our test. Now to run our tests, we need to use now the devtools utility package. Then within devtools, there is a function called test. So once you call that, once you're within your package directory, you can call that so that it can run for you the tests automatically. So if you run these, it will highlight differences. So I'm getting differences here. So there's a fail. So actually it's 2.0. Expected is 2.5. So let's see where the issue is. Two and 3. Let me just test here, and don't know why it's getting 2. Hmm. 2, 3. I don't know if it's a case of rounding off. Let me just check. Problem. Okay, the main function expects a vector. That's the issue. Now let's run our test. Still have one fail. I need to modify this as well. Then I think after modifying this, I don't need this vector here. I'm doing this from scratch, so that's why I need to be very careful. So let's run the test again. Let's test. Now I think now the test has passed. Now I have 0 fail, 0 warnings, and then 0 skip. So let me just reduce an error. Let me divide this by 3. I'm reducing an error just intentionally. So devtools test. I'll now get this. Actually it's 2.5 and expected is 1.7. So you see that this average is different from this because I'm dividing by 3 items. This is being divided by 2 items. So that's how you develop a test for this particular function that you've written. So once you have your functions, it's good practice that you write these tests. So these tests can be long or short depending with the nature of your function, the kind of inputs that you are required for that particular function, and the number of test cases or maybe edge cases. So that will detect the number of tests that you have for a particular function. But that's just a introduction of how you can be able to do testing in R. So another thing that I wanted to highlight is how to document your function. So in most cases, you find that when you want to get help within RStudio concerning a function, for example, the main function, you simply write question mark main. Then if you run this, page pops up, giving you the title of the function, arithmetic main description, and then usage, and then arguments, then some examples. So you can also be able to write such a documentation for your custom functions. So the simplest way to do that is to use ROxGen2 comments. So within the definition of your function, if you place your cursor within the definition of your function, then you come to code insert ROxGen skeleton. This will pop up. So you just need to modify this. So the title, and call it local arithmetic mean from 1. This is the first numeric argument, and this is second numeric argument, and return type, of course, we expect it to return a single numeric value. Then export, you're exporting the name of a function. So the name of function is avg1. Then we can have some examples. So avg1, 2, 3, avg1, 10. So once you have your ROxGen comments, for you to generate a documentation similar to this is very easy. So what you need to do is going to use a utility package devtools. There's a function within this package called document. So once you call this document, it's going to generate for you the documentation for this particular function. So let's run this. So once you run this, you can check from your man folder that now we have an RD file specific to your function avg1. So avg1.rd. So this is going to generate for you the documentation. So once a user is using your function, maybe they want to check for specific arguments or some examples, they can now simply use question mark, then the name of your function, avg1. So when they run that, the documentation pops up. So avg function within the test03 package, then a short title for your function, usage, then the explanation for the arguments, and then some examples. So that's how you develop a package. So doing some documentation for your functions, and then also developing tests for your functions. So this will help your package to be submission ready, so that you can be able to submit either to CRAN or to GitHub, or maybe just to use for local purposes. So this gives you like a good workflow for developing code that is testable and code that is fully documented, so that when you come at it maybe at some later stages, it will be easier for you to follow what you're doing. Or if you share this with someone else, they can be able to follow through documentation, and also through these tests they can be able to verify if your function is doing what's expected to be done. So the number of functions within the tester that you can be able to use, which you're not going to cover, but you can explore the number of functions that you can use to develop these tests. But the main package that is being used to develop this test is the test hat package. And then we have the these utility packages, the devtools, and use this package that can be able to help you in your journey to develop packages and to test these packages. So I hope that has been useful. Till next time, thank you.